Hello and welcome. This is Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. I'm your host, Todd Pittenger from the Rockingham Media Group of radio stations and the Rockingham Media News Network. We broadcast on 41 stations across Kansas, most notably, though, News Radio 1150 KSAL right here in Salina. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a fun program, an exciting program. Well, maybe not fun and exciting, but an interesting program lined up today. Joining us today is Jim Kowach, the Public Works Director for the City of Salina. Jim, you've been on the show before. Thank you very much.
Good to see you again, Todd.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you also. And I want to dive right into it. The biggest, they call it perhaps the biggest public/private project in the history of the City of Salina is going on right now. The refurbishment, reconstruction, major renovation of downtown Salina. Give me an update. How's it going?
It has been going very well considering. Considering we have had the worst winter around here that people can remember for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
That we have had more precipitation and more consecutive days below 32 degrees that really do impact the waterline work and the concrete work that we need to do as part of the project. Now
you say waterline work, update us, what exactly are we doing with the water? We're tearing out the old and putting in new essentially, right?
Absolutely. The people may not know that the new water line downtown was 80 years old.
Right.
We had some as old as 100 years old.
So the new was 80 years old.
The newer water line was 80 years old, so it all needed to be replaced. And replacing the water line right down the center of Santa Fe was going to be a big deal. So combining the streetscape or the street reconstruction with the water line project really is taking care of two things at one time. So.
Now, it looks great. I think from about, and instead of saying streets, I'll give landmarks, from about the Sonic to the Stiefel Theater, that section is pretty much done, correct?
Yes, that south block from Mulberry to Walnut is pretty much done. There's a few things that right around where the new hotel's going in needs to be completed. The overhead structure needs to be completed, and we are also completing the plaza in that block.
Right. Now, two different sections are under construction right now. Is that correct? Two different sections of Santa Fe. Tell me about that.
Well, because the hotel was going in on the south block, and the alley entertainment center was going in on the north block. Those were the two first blocks that had to be done according to the downtown redevelopment agreement. So that's the ones that we're concentrating on, and then we're going to meet in the middle basically and complete the other two blocks by the end of the year. The south block is about complete. The north block is well underway with the east half complete and about half of the work on the south or the west half done. But that block is about 3/4 of the way done, and both of those had to be completed according to contract by July 31st. So we're way ahead of schedule as far as the contract requirements. But to get everything done by basically Thanksgiving of this year is still a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Now, when finished, for those that haven't been downtown to see the finished section yet, tell us how the new section is different from the section that got torn up and the water line replaced.
Right. Well, we're putting a brand new water main down the center of the street, and then along with that, they're putting all new services and new fire lines to all of the buildings downtown. And that's good for public safety, but also for occupancy. Most of those buildings will be able to accept new businesses or bigger businesses when we're all done. The sidewalks are going to be wider. We will have 3 lanes instead of 4. The parking stalls will be considerably longer. Anybody that's driven down Santa Fe knows that a lot of those big pickups and SUVs kind of hang out into that lane now.
If you get in that outside lane, look out, you might clip a rear end of a car.
And people ask us, well, what is what is 3 lanes? Well, that's kind of a paved median in the middle. It can be used as a turn lane at either end of the block, but in the interior of the block, it can also be used for emergencies or for deliveries. Because a lot of businesses get their deliveries with trucks parking in the median. So it's a paved median made out of bricks.
And tell me about those bricks.
Those bricks are from the original street construction over 100 years ago.
You found them underneath when you tore up the concrete, right?
Absolutely. That we knew they were down there, and we salvaged them. The contractors cleaned them up and repurposed them as kind of a historic memory of downtown Salina.
All right, we've talked about the street. Let's talk about some of the structures that are going up downtown. KU School of Medicine, which really is pretty much a private project downtown. It's totally complete. It's finished. It's up. I've been in there several times. It looks great. Old Chicago, it's up. It's finished. Down on the same block where Old Chicago is, there's a hotel going up. Tell me about the hotel. How's the progress of that?
We had a meeting earlier this week, and Salina 2020 gave us an update, and they, like us, were hampered by the cold weather. But it's amazing. If you haven't seen it in 2 weeks, you need to come take a look at it because the framers are in.
Right.
And the building has went from this tall to 4 stories just overnight. It just really is impressive.
And just driving here to do this program this afternoon, I drove by it, there were people literally up on the roof working this afternoon. It's one of the few days so far that's been conducive for that. All right, the hotel, it's coming right along. Tell me about the Alley. It looks like to me the Alley Family Fun Center, which for those that aren't familiar where it's going to be, basically right across the street from the post office. Tell me about the Alley. How's it coming along?
It is coming along well too. That they did get the concrete poured last fall before it got cold, and then the temperatures hit us all.
Right.
They've got the metal structure in,
are up, I saw, yeah.
and they're starting to close it in, and it changes every day.
Right.
It's incredible with the warmer weather how much more progress you can see. And I think it's kind of funny that people say, well, nothing's happened all winter. There has been a lot of stuff.
Right.
There's been the people that are down there. There are people every day, working behind the scenes, ordering materials, getting stuff ready, making plans, and I likened it to a flea circus. You know a lot of stuff's going on, but you can't really see it.
Absolutely, or like a duck swimming on the water. Underneath, he's paddling like heck. You just can't see the feet paddling like heck.
That is a good one, too.
And I'll tell you, I really, since I'm downtown, our radio station's downtown, I see it every day. I don't see the overnight changes, so to speak. I was telling you this off camera. My daughter was just back home from college for spring break. She hadn't been home since Christmas. Before that, she was home probably Thanksgiving. Each time she comes back, I take her for a ride downtown. It looks drastically different to her every time she comes back. So to someone who isn't downtown all the time, you go down just a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, big change.
Big changes, not only on the public side, but now the weather's nice enough. I encourage people to come down, walk around. The private investment in those buildings, the old brick buildings, people are restoring the facades.
Yes.
They're putting new windows in them. They look a lot different. And there are going to be, the businesses that are here are going to be better, and there are going to be some new businesses move in.
All right, I walked over to the field house from the radio station the other day. Match Madness was going on. I walked over to that. I walked through a new plaza down in the 100 block of North Santa Fe. Tell me about that new plaza. It's lit now. It looks beautiful. It's not totally finished yet. I was stunned when I walked through it, though, how nice it looks.
It is. Each plaza will be unique, and lighting was one of the things that our design consultant wanted to really emphasize to make them unique. And if you haven't seen it at night, you haven't seen it yet.
Honestly, I didn't notice it until this morning. I go to work very early.
Right.
About 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking out the window and I see it, and I'm like, wow, why have I not noticed that before? That plaza is beautiful.
Right. It was kind of hidden before behind the overhead structure and then just the buildings and stuff. But that is Phillips Plaza, and it's right on the east side of Santa Fe in the 100 block.
Right.
And it is kind of the gateway over to the field house.
Yes.
And we anticipate a lot of pedestrian traffic coming through that to kind of access downtown. This winter, by the end of the year, I don't know if people have seen it, but if they haven't went down 5th Street, we completely reconstructed that where the old bank drive-through used to be, and we have public parking as well as some private parking for KU right there. So
again, this is Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. I'm your host, Todd Pittenger. Jim Kowach from the city of Salina is our guest today. All right, we've been talking about downtown Salina, structures, street, all kinds of things going on there. A little further north of downtown are some projects going on now as well. Not on Santa Fe, but North 9th Street. There's some big doings going on. The wheels of progress, so to speak, are spinning there. Tell me about North 9th Street. How's that progressing?
Well, we've been working pretty closely with the North Salina Community Development Group, and for the last 3 or 4 years, they've done really a great job on spring spruce up and fall fix up on their front porch project. And North 9th Street is kind of the front porch of the city, but then every property has a front porch. And they've emphasized cleaning up those properties, repairing those porches, painting them, landscaping. They've worked with Westar for some tree removal and replacement. Right. We partnered with them to add new sidewalks. On the east side, right now, we're adding a couple of brick crosswalks. There again, salvaging bricks that have been there 100 years to try to make it better. And then we've been working closely with them and surveyed the traffic and surveyed the public, and we are seriously considering lowering the speed limit on North 9th.
It's 35 now, right?
It is 40.
40 right now, right?
It is 40.
Which seems kind of fast to a residential area. There's houses and there's a living center there.
Right. There's a couple bus stops, and they also have lending libraries that the children use. So we want to make sure that they can cross 9th Street safely. So we want to lower the speed limit and hopefully add some pedestrian crossings up there.
Right. Is it potentially going to narrow a little bit too? All right, that's 4 lanes now, right?
Well, it has been 4 lanes forever.
Right.
When we overlaid it last year, we put it back as a 2-lane to try to slow traffic down and see what would happen and allow parking. Because of the mailboxes and the narrow lots, there's not a lot of parking if people wanted to continue to get their mail.
Right.
And without people parking, the street didn't appear to narrow and traffic didn't slow down.
Right.
So that was plan A, and it really didn't work.
Right.
We've considered a 3-lane with a turn lane in the middle and a 4-lane. And really we think a 4-lane meets our needs better because that will help traffic continue to move around the bus stops safely and those kinds of things.
That's what people are used to too.
Right. That I think we are going to hopefully restripe it back as a 4-lane this summer. We won't be narrowing it, but we will be adding some signalized pedestrian crossings that will make it safer for everybody.
And making people slow down a little bit.
And slow down, that's right.
Again, Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. Todd Pittenger, Jim Kowach from the city of Salina. All right, we've talked about downtown. We've talked about North 9th Street. Spring is in the air. It's getting warmer. I'm going to be mowing the yard. I've got one of those yard waste carts. I know recycling has been kind of on the back burner for a little while. They're kind of turning it up a little. Tell me a little bit about recycling and what's happening with the city of Salina.
All right. We had permission to go to curbside recycling last spring.
Correct.
But there have been a lot of changes in just the world market in recycling over the past year. And as we got closer to ordering trucks last fall, we really thought we should rethink that decision. So we've been gathering information and had several discussions with the city commissioners. And we've decided not to implement full-time curbside recycling at this time.
Not yet, at least, right?
Not yet, exactly. We do have kind of a subscription program that is limited as far as the number of people it can handle. It currently has small containers,
those
some limitations,
boxes, so to speak,
the 18-gallon containers, and it's weekly pickup. There's not enough people to really make it pay for itself.
Right.
So we've not only looked at ways we can improve that, but we put out on our request for information from private vendors to see if anybody else would be interested in coming up with a subscription recycling program here in Salina that people could afford and would use. And we're in the process of evaluating those. They just closed the 15th of March, so we're evaluating those proposals. We've met with 2 of the folks that submitted, and we've got at least 1 more meeting scheduled. And hopefully we'll get some information to put in front of the commissioners about curbside or subscription recycling.
All right, right now I can't do the curbside recycling unless I am signed up, but there's still a way I can recycle for free, and it's pretty easy. Tell me about the drive-through recycling the city has.
Right, and people will argue with you that it's not free because all of us are paying for it.
Right.
There is about $1 charge per month on everybody's water bill.
Correct.
That makes it available.
In my mind, it's free because I don't have to drive up and
That's
pay
right.
anything.
And it is very convenient. If you want to, and you don't have to sort your materials, you can find out what we take online, or they have brochures.
Right.
But 125 West North, which is just a couple blocks north of Elm Street on Santa Fe.
Right, you drive down Santa Fe north, you can see it. You won't miss it.
Right, it's just south of the elevators. It's open, we're closed Sunday and Monday.
Right.
And then Tuesday through Thursday, 8:30 to 6.
Okay.
So it's a longer hours before work, after work, on Saturday.
Yep.
So people, it's real convenient. Every week our submittals or our tonnage grows a little bit, that people are using it, and they telling other folks, and they continue to use it. But it's easy. You pull up to the gate, you're motioned into the building. Our guys will unload your materials, and then you proceed right through the building.
All right, do I put my materials in a box, in a trash bag? Does it matter?
Well, we want to be safety conscious, and there's a whole nother controversy about single use or trash bags.
Right.
So we would like people to purchase some sort of box or container,
Right.
recycle, have our guys dump it, and use the same box or container again. Now, you don't have to.
Right.
You can put them in a trash bag or something, and they will give it back to you.
Right.
A lot of times that may or may not be real clean, but if you want to discard it, you can.
I love the idea of like a Rubbermaid tote. I've got a gazillion of those down in my basement stacked. One of those would be perfect, right?
Or cardboard boxes, or if you don't want that box, you can throw it in with the rest and get a new one. So.
Once it gets
reuse is better than recycle.
Absolutely. So. Jim Kowach, City of Salina, your city in action. Anything else we need to touch on before we go?
Well, the only other thing is you touched on it a minute ago was spring is in the air, and yard waste is something that we'll hear the sound of lawnmowers. And we are having a study session with our city commissioners to continue or to look at our yard waste collection and see if that's something that we are going to keep doing here in the city. We've had challenges with that just the last few years because of staffing and the ability.
Staffing or the lack thereof, right?
The ability to hire folks. That can man that, and that's one area that it's kind of the first one that we have to drop if we don't have people, because our yard waste route is the same as our sanitation route. So if we don't have yard waste people, we just collect the yard waste with your sanitation, and really it's commingled with your trash, but it doesn't get recycled. So there's a drawback to it. It's much more efficient, but it's not getting reused or
and that's
repurposed.
really not, that was not the purpose of the program when it started either, to commingle it with your garbage.
No, and there's a cost to collecting it separately, and that's all that information will be put in front of our commissioners to consider.
Jim Kowach, City of Salina, thank you so much. So much going on in downtown Salina. We'll have you back for another update. I would say probably before summer starts. And before I let you go, target date on some of these things. The hotel, the bowling alley, are they going to be done by the end of summer, hopefully?
The bowling alley, we expect to be complete this fall. According to the presentation I heard earlier this week, the hotel is not going to be open until about the end of the year.
So hopefully in year 2019, though, both of them will be open, right?
Yes.
Jim Kowach, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. This has been your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection.